What's up, guys? Welcome back to the SNS podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be previewing the SEC conference, a conference that for the last decade, I would say, has been probably unanimously considered the best overall conference. I think there's some years where you could argue other conferences here or there. I do think, in my opinion, in the last 3 to 5 years, or maybe just 3 years or so, I think if that conference didn't have Alabama, then they certainly would be not considered as great. I think some of the other teams haven't picked up the slack. I think LSU's been a little bit down. A couple of the other teams have been up or down, but Auburn's been a little bit down. Georgia's been a little bit down. They had some coaching changes. Florida recently had a coaching change not too long ago. Was it been a year or two? So, but yeah, we're going to preview that conference, as it sounds like I'm just automatically just crushing them. But we're going to go through, basically, if you guys watched the first episode where we previewed the Big 12 and Pac-12. If you haven't seen that episode, then you should check that out. But basically, we're going to go through our winners for each of the divisions, our surprise teams that could possibly win the division, maybe some overrated teams, talk about Hugh Freeze a little bit and his hookers or whatever, and then pretty much give a winner from the conference. So I guess, Addison, I'll start with you. We can get right into the winner. You can talk about whatever you want. Why don't you start with who you like out of the East?
Okay,
and then we'll go from there.
The East in general, I think, obviously the last several years, it's been pretty far behind the SEC West. I think the East is going to be a lot better just as a whole this year. I think Florida's going to be better, Georgia, Tennessee probably won't be, but South Carolina is another team that looks like they're getting better.
Mm-hmm.
It's been they've had a few down years after having 3 straight 11-win seasons.
Right.
Yeah, so the way that I see this division kind of going, I think it's close between Florida and Georgia. I have Georgia winning the division. They bring back almost everyone on D on what should be a very good defense this year. Offensively, they have one of the best backfields in the country, Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, and also what's his name? Eason?
Yeah,
Jacob Eason.
Yeah, he's
Babyface.
Very good.
Yeah.
He was very good as a true frosh. He, obviously, being a freshman, he had his spurts of, maybe some play that was a little bit down, but he showed certainly a lot of arm talent. I don't remember if that's a Mel Kiper term or not. I actually kind of hate that.
We're going to use that every week in our
arm talent. Yeah, this guy's a lot of arm talent. So, yeah, no, you go ahead, though.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I think a lot of even teams like Kentucky, they're not awful.
No, they're improved. They're possibly a bold prediction surprise team coming up.
Yeah. If I was going to give you a surprise team, I would say South Carolina. I think they'll kind of have a bounce back year this year.
Okay.
They bring a lot back offensively. Last year they had a true freshman quarterback who actually I didn't really see him play much last year, but he kind of had a solid year. Given
so I think from what I read, not to interrupt you, but just to add to that, I think he started out the year pretty solidly. Did he start the year, or did he come in and play later? Because
I think he came in partway through the year. I can't remember.
I think I remember reading
Eason?
No,
they're talking South Carolina.
We're on South Carolina.
Oh, sorry. Just tuning in here.
I like how we try to act like we're experts. I barely know who played for South Carolina quarterback last year. I thought I read something where their quarterback.
Does it matter?
No.
I'm saying they're my surprise team in the division.
They're his surprise team, so It matters a little bit.
Yeah. Georgia's my winner. Florida close second for me.
Okay. Let me ask you this: do you think
just lost their top tackler to an Achilles injury?
Yeah.
Though
we're gonna get into when we actually talk about our SEC actual conference winner, I guess, when we talk about the West and how the East matches up with the West.
Because the winner is in the West.
Well, okay, so that's what I was going to kind of ask you is right away, do you think Georgia can legitimately beat Alabama? Maybe in a one-game scenario?
Yeah, they'll compete. It'll be better than...
They almost beat them a couple years ago.
Yeah, it'll be better than the
2012.
last...
I actually thought that team...
Which, as a Notre Dame fan, I was kind of pulling for.
Won that game, maybe, yeah. That was a really good Georgia team.
Yeah, that was
but Rick's teams, Mark Richt was the former coach. He's at Miami now. We'll get into the U when we do the ACC preview in the next episode. But his teams just always seem to fall short, and Kirby Smart is getting a lot of praise. The players really like him. It seems like the program's I don't know. I wouldn't say like shifting overall in philosophy, but definitely like maybe like a tougher mentality. I think that could help Georgia. Like Georgia always recruits really well. In our lifetime, at least, they've always been very relevant to where like, hey, why is Georgia not competing for national titles? Why are they not winning the SEC more often? They were missing kind of like that it factor. I don't really know how to describe it, but
yeah, we talk about that a lot. Georgia is the best high school football talent state that really hasn't won anything big like in our lifetime.
Yeah, right. So you got Georgia, you've got South Carolina as your surprise team.
Yeah.
Do you have possibly like an overrated team that you could think of in the East, like somebody that's? I mean, I guess it's kind of hard when
it's hard to pick one out of this division, I guess.
Right. I mean, I guess we normally would just make fun of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee is actually a team this year that maybe, I don't know, maybe they could surprise as a team that we're not finally talking about.
Yeah, they could. They actually could this year. I'm not really hating on them as much. They're a little more under the radar this year than like the last few years.
Sure.
Dobbs leaving takes like a ton of their offense, with him. And Kamara, two best players on offense.
Sure. Okay, Steele, how about you go ahead with your East winner, your surprise team, an overrated team if one exists, I guess.
Yeah, so something that you didn't touch base on, Essen, which I found amusing, was the quarterback transfer into Florida.
Well, it used to be your guy, so
my
best
boy,
to let you know.
Right,
that.
Exactly. My boy Malik Zaire coming in from Notre Dame, he kind of held out in terms of where he decided to transfer to until I think the SEC actually had to revise their transfer rules for him to even be eligible. So he was kind of waiting in the wind for that to be done, and now he's at Florida competing with a redshirt freshman who was very highly touted for the starting position. But
Felipe Franks.
Felipe Franks.
Yeah, he was supposed to be really good.
By all accounts, that everybody believes that Malik Zaire will win the job. He was pretty hyped up coming into Notre Dame, and the season
2 years ago.
2 years ago, right? I think he's an elite runner, cannon of an arm. Not sure if he's much of a pocket passer, but I don't think they're going to ask him to do much in terms of that. The receivers that Florida have are ranked number 1 in the SEC by Phil Steele, which is kind of shocking to us. We kind of thought Alabama would have the number 1 unit there, but Callaway and company down in Gainesville is my pick to win the East, along with a lot of the preseason magazine experts. I think Georgia will compete. I think they've got a good squad. They've got a Week 2 game at Notre Dame to be determined to see if that's even a competition for them or if they go up there and just crush them.
Possibly.
Florida, right. It could be over pretty quick. Florida does always play Florida State late in the year, and the schedule sets up for them. They've got the neutral game site is in Jacksonville this year with Georgia.
Right.
And then just taking a quick glance at their
Michigan
schedule.
Week 1.
Michigan Week 1. I think they take it to khakis, quite honestly. I think their khakis in Ann Arbor has a bigger drop-off than a lot of people want to give them credit for, too. So we'll preview that in the Big Ten preview episode.
Right.
But, getting past that, they've got a couple of cupcakes. Tennessee at home, A&M, LSU, both at home. They do the Florida State games are at home as well. So I think their schedule in terms of home games versus away is pretty favorable. Again, with that transfer of Malik Zaire coming into a reasonably inept offense the last couple of years, I think their quarterback play has been pretty atrocious.
Yeah.
If he can give them a boost with just a couple of Hail Mary bombs, with how big his arm is, and maybe a couple scramble first downs here and there, I think the offense moves a little bit better, and they're pretty much always stacked on D, or at least they've got the talent there. They're my pick to win the East. Georgia, close second.
Surprise team?
No, because don't waste anybody's time.
Okay.
I mean, South Carolina, Tennessee.
Sure.
What do you?
Yeah.
I mean,
I got you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
know.
It's the division winner is obviously going to be one of the two.
I guess so like we're not. I'm not gonna say like we're bound to the strict rules of the structure of the pod where like I'm saying, oh, you have to have a surprise team that wins the division. I think it's more maybe if you don't have one that you think can win the division.
Who's the outsider?
Yeah, maybe a team that could like surprise and be finish higher in the standings than what everyone's saying. I'm not saying they have to win the division because and you guys will see in the next episode of the ACC. I was looking at this the other day for the, I believe, what's the division that like Miami and Virginia Tech and Pitt are in, like the Atlantic, or is it the Coastal?
They're Coastal.
Coastal, that's right, because we always make fun of the Coastal for Corey from Denver. That's one where like I was looking at that, and we'll preview that in the next episode. Where I was like, I don't know if I can pick a surprise team to win this division because I don't know if there is one. But anyway, so yeah, so we won't waste our time with that. Probably not an overrated team from you then. I mean, Georgia and Florida, you both think are pretty solid.
Yeah, solid teams. Tennessee, like Addison said, their hype isn't as big as it has been in years past.
Right.
Butch Jones kind of on the hot seat there. If he doesn't put together an 8 or 9 win season, we could see him being out. Maybe a John Gruden replacement would be kind of
bold
great.
prediction.
Yeah, bold prediction there.
Lane Kiffin comes back for round 2.
Yeah, we've
That
got a destination for Lane.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute here.
That we'll get to. But
Okay.
What about you for the East?
So I like Florida, and I think that you could definitely flip a coin and pick Georgia or Florida. The reason I like Florida is I do think that they will have improved quarterback play, whether it is Malik Zaire or the very highly touted Felipe Franks. I think their receivers are going to be much improved. I think another year under McElwain on offense. I think the biggest thing with Florida is they always were good on defense, even under Muschamp. And when we talk about South Carolina, if Will Muschamp teams can get any kind of production out of their offense, they've got a shot to win big football games because their defense is usually that good. And I like what Florida brings back. I like the makeup of their team this year. I think the schedule sets up for them pretty well. So I do like them to win the East. Surprise team, I actually like Kentucky. I don't like them to necessarily be able to win the division. But I wouldn't be surprised at the end if they're maybe like at the end of the season, we might be talking about them a little bit. When I was reading about them, they seem to bring back a good amount of talent. I think with an East that has some teams that are all arguable as far as like 3 to whatever the last team is. Like how many teams are in the division? 6 or 7?
7.
I think you could definitely argue 7 no matter the order. I will mention that I think Tennessee could make some noise, but I think Butch Jones sucks at coaching football, so I just don't see them really doing anything, to be honest. I actually do think he's going to be fired after this year. I don't think that's really a bold prediction or anything, but yeah, I think I like Florida, and like I said, I think Addison picking Georgia is totally fine. I wish I could like call him an idiot and make this more entertaining, but I mean, Georgia's a good football team, so why don't we move on to the West then, and Addison, I'll start with you, just same thing, just let it rip.
Yep. Well, I think there's 3 teams that are kind of, way better than like the bottom 4 in the division. We all know who we're going to pick number 1, Alabama. Obviously, until someone can beat them, they're just going to be the pick every single year.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many guys they lose; they just plug guys right back in. Just like Georgia. I mean, they've got probably the best backfield in the country. It's so much depth too. It's kind of like USC's backfield in like the mid 2000s, which it's just like all 5-star guys.
Lendell White, yeah.
Yeah, like they're all like legit starters, like anywhere in the country. Hurts, he's got some improvement to make off of last season. He didn't have to really do much last year, and he probably won't this year, except they play Florida State week 1, and that's obviously going to be
screen
well,
passes.
yeah, that's the thing is I think when he was asked to throw the ball down the field, he definitely struggled. I think the thing that helps him a lot, though, is that he does have Calvin Ridley, and I think it's, Robert Foster. I mean, they have really good athletes at wide receiver, and I shouldn't say athletes, I should say guys that legitimately can run routes and catch the football and really help him. And it always helps to have an offensive line that literally is never going to allow you to get touched. And you've got these 2 or 3 monsters in the backfield that are always going to take the pressure off you.
Bo Scarborough, strong like Bull.
Yeah, it's really going to help him out. So
wasn't even the leading rusher on the team.
Right, which is insane.
Yeah. Jerry Jeudy, who's a true freshman, is projected to start at wide receiver, which with how much talent they return is pretty ridiculous. So
right.
That speaks to how
and
good
they've had a lot of
he was.
they've had a lot of success with freshman receivers over the years too.
Amari Cooper, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley. I mean, they've had a lot.
Yeah,
so.
the cupboard's not bare.
Yeah. And the real question is we might differ on this: who's number 2 in the division? And this is going to be competitive. I mean, Alabama, they go into the year, everyone's number one. The next two teams are definitely going to compete with them, I think. My number 2, I went back and forth on this. I'm actually going to go with Auburn. At first, I didn't really have them at number 2. They've got a lot of expectations this year. I feel like, for whatever reason, they just tend to, when they have some hype, they underperform. But their biggest question mark last year was the quarterback position. They get a huge upgrade this year with Jarrett Stidham coming in, transferred from Baylor. He didn't play in that many games, and he also was coming from a very quarterback-friendly system at Baylor. But, he looked really good. He's kind of a different type of quarterback, since usually the quarterback that Auburn has usually has some running ability, but
can't throw the ball.
He looks like a really pure passer.
He is.
And he's got 2 great running backs and a really good defense, one of the best in the SEC. So I went with them over LSU for second.
Okay.
And LSU, maybe if I really like Geis. Darius Geis, one of the best players in the country, running back for LSU. But the rest of the offense, they lost a lot on D. They recruit, a ton of great athletes, so they should be fine.
Starting a Big Ten transfer quarterback.
Right. Yeah, Purdue.
Purdue.
Not just any transfer.
It's not acceptable.
Right. It's not Penn State or Ohio State or Michigan transfer. This kid played at Purdue originally.
Not acceptable.
I mean, that's going to probably be a problem. But
and besides Geis, offensively, I just don't see enough proven talent.
Right.
So, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, and then.
Do you have a team that maybe from like the bottom half of that conference that could potentially finish like third that could surprise?
Maybe not third, but I'll say Mississippi State because they're picked last, I think, in the division by a lot of people.
Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah, and they've actually done pretty well when picked bad in the division.
Mullen's a good coach.
Yeah.
Okay. Steele.
Yeah. Can't disagree with that too much. How Alabama is the king of the castle, and nobody's knocked them off.
King in the castle.
So they're my pick to win that division until someone can prove otherwise.
Yeah.
Auburn is my number 2, based on their schedule, where they go to LSU in the middle of the season, and then week 2, I think we've overlooked this, or at least we haven't mentioned it to the pod followers, is week 2 in college football on September 9th is going to be just jam-packed from noon until 1 a.m. with really good matchups.
Yeah, really good games.
Auburn playing at Clemson is one of those marquee matchups, and again, that's out of conference, but that's going to be a good game and a good litmus test for them right off the bat. But they do Auburn and with Georgia and Alabama both at home. So that's going to, I think, lessen the blow and make it a little bit easier if they are to compete in that division. Addison stole the words right out of our mouth, where it's about Jarrett Stidham coming from Baylor. I think Gus Malzahn, very offensive-minded coach and proven track winner in terms of offensive production. I think he's going to put up some monster numbers. Sean White, a lot of hype for him. I think he was like a 4 or 5-star recruit. I never saw it on anything that I ever watched in an Auburn game.
He's not good.
So they've got 2 starters. He'll probably end up transferring, which is fine. He can find some success at maybe a smaller program. But Stidham there, usually pretty good on defense in Auburn's case. LSU, like we kind of touched base, is that their quarterback play has been just atrocious. If they could have found any mediocrity or above average play there, they could have won, a national title, or at least,
I think
further competed for it.
One more, yeah.
So those are 1, 2, and 3. Everybody else in the second half. A&M's kind of a funky team. Someone was like a hot coach hire, like in
someone.
Yeah, with Mansell had some success, early on, but has kind of faded. They either start hot and then finish cold. Like if the season ended in the middle of the year, they'd be contending for titles all the time. But it's just not the way it's built. So they kind of lose a lot of their fire in the middle of the season, and then end up losing later on. They're capable of beating anybody. I mean, it's kind of cliche to say, but
they're capable of losing to anybody too.
Right,
I mean,
right. So that would be my surprise team if you wanted to pick one. But by surprise, I mean
like maybe finish third.
Right, like knock off Alabama, but like it means nothing because they've got 4 conference losses.
What's weird about them is I think they've done almost like better away than home in the
They
SEC.
have. They've been really bad at home the last few years. Yeah, which is really weird because Kyle Field is supposed to be one of the most daunting places to play. So I think, you made good points. I think they look. I'll give you mine real quick. There's no reason for me to really say anything different. Alabama is, I think, head and shoulders above everybody in this division. I think I was reading in Phil Steele that this is amazing to me, and this maybe is echoing kind of what I said in the beginning of the pod, where maybe the SEC hasn't been as good as everyone has thought the last few years because Alabama has literally lost like only 3 or 4 games in the last 5 years in that conference. Phil Steele this year has them ranked number 1 in every positional unit except for one, and I think they're number 2 in receivers. And we said that we could argue that their receivers are the best in the conference.
Yeah,
so
Florida's got more depth because they bring back literally like their whole receiving depth chart.
Right. But like Alabama has potentially maybe like the better NFL talent. I mean, Kyle is a really good player for Florida, but I think the point is when you're in a division that's that competitive, full of that many NFL bodies, and you're rated as having the best players in each unit, in every unit, then that's saying something. And I think that it'd be a major upset if Alabama did not make the SEC title game and win the conference, to be quite frank. I agree. I think Auburn's going to finish second. I like Stidham. I think that team has the makeup. And the thing is about Alabama is when we talk about programs that have given Alabama some fits, the only 2 programs really, to be honest, are Ole Miss and Auburn. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I think they kind of own LSU for the most part. Like, LSU's won like a game here or there. But
last 5 years, I mean, they haven't lost to LSU.
Right.
I don't think,
but I mean,
not since that national title season when it was 1 versus 2,
and they got revenge.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think though I like the makeup of Auburn. LSU is a team that certainly will compete. I agree with these guys. I think that, again, they might struggle offensively. The one thing that we have failed to mention, they did get Matt Canada from Pitt, who's a very good offensive coordinator. And the thing is, it's not like LSU is going from, like, the Les Miles, we're going to pound you in the ground with a running game and play action, to, like, a spread system all of a sudden. Matt Canada came from a system at Pitt where it's very, like, pro-style, like, run-heavy, play action, bootleg type of stuff. He's just better than anybody LSU's had.
He's going to win Coordinator of the Year if he makes Danny Etling.
If he that's what we're saying. Look, if he can make LSU competent on offense, they can beat Alabama and Auburn. They can win that division. So I agree with these guys. I think the top 3 is going to be pretty competitive, but I think Alabama definitely takes it again. I would be pretty surprised if they didn't.
Side note interjection here. Hugh Freeze.
Yeah, we got to talk about that.
Sorry about your loss of job. I'm not one to say that I'm
a perfect person. Or
sinless to say the least. But it's kind of comical because he was always portrayed himself as like a holier than thou type of person, super religious, and like I don't cuss, and that's
but
not,
I do hookers.
That's not how you win recruits over and all this stuff. And then with the allegations that are going on down in Oxford, it's pretty comical.
So how many calls were there?
I don't know.
There's repeated calls to the same line, which was to the hookers, the escort service. So,
I heard someone saying today, it's like, I thought there were 2 calls. He could have just said something like, "Oh, I thought, I got a call from a random number and I just called him back." He could have like tried to make that excuse or something.
You sound like you've done this before.
He jumped.
That's what I heard someone else say.
Okay.
He jumped off the bandwagon pretty quickly when he felt the heat coming on. So I just found it amusing that he always portrayed himself as this great and holy man, but his deep dark secrets came out and found him.
I think down in Oxford.
Which, quite honestly, I mean, not to get off football track here,
but it does have something to do with the fact that, like, look, Ole Miss, since he arrived, all of a sudden just came out of nowhere and was a team that was beating Alabama sometimes. That one season were ranked, they were possibly
They were ranked top 3 2 years in a row.
Right, they were in the playoff hunt 2 years in a row. So like all of a sudden they started getting all these recruits, these huge recruiting classes, which the schools in Mississippi struggle because their best kids usually go to Georgia, Bama, and LSU. And so it was weird all of a sudden that Hugh Freeze was all of a sudden getting these recruits. And, obviously the escort service has nothing to do. Well, I don't know. Maybe the escort service was part of the recruiting
Louisville
package.
basketball.
I don't know. So,
That's what I was thinking of.
Look, I mean,
Rick Pitino.
at this point, we can't put anything past them. I mean, Ole Miss clearly, we all, I think, will agree that has pretty much cheated their way into getting recruits and getting to where they're at this point in time. Now, I'm not saying that like other programs are perfect, or maybe not every program cheats in some manner, but a school like Ole Miss, who prides themselves on tailgating and literally just hasn't really had like a consistent elite product on the field, but they act like they are because they're in the SEC.
Never made even a conference championship either. The
So,
only team in that division.
Right, which is crazy. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think that he got what he deserved pretty much because it was going to be coming to him anyway. I think that we've heard some rumors in the last few days that it'd be an interesting spot for Lane Kiffin to end up at, only because
it'd be very entertaining.
It'd be very entertaining there. He fits in with that kind of like party-like atmosphere. He would love to stick it to Saban over and over, possibly.
Yeah. Just seeing those two play each other,
right?
Would be fun.
And I think that Lane is a really good recruiter. I mean, come on, he's the kind of guy that could be like, hey, why don't you come to Ole Miss? I'll let you do what you want. We're good at putting points. You can do whatever.
If there's a guy that's going to keep, the recruiting classes coming in, like he would be.
He'd be the guy, right?
And there was also that. Did you guys send it to me about Lane Kiffin following like Ole Miss on Twitter,
yes,
like right after,
or them like following him or something? Yeah, it was one or the other. But yeah, that's an interesting situation. I obviously think that we all would agree that we think Ole Miss is going to suck this year. I mean, any reason to think they're going to be good?
Not high expectations, even lower now. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
Like, what kind of losses they'll have, like player-wise, because of it.
Well, he already got rid of his coordinators before the start of the season, so he was kind of on a ship by himself. Hugh Freeze, that is. So now that he's gone, I mean, there's kind of no captain to sail the boat, so to speak. So this year, or quite frankly, even next year, depending on who they get.
Yeah.
You're going to hear some names floated around, like Stoops or Chip Kelly, probably pretty asinine names to think about.
That's the thing is, like, I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Is, like, I think their fans think it's like a destination spot, and I just, look, you're in the West, you have to go up against Bama, LSU, and Auburn every year, and you don't have the in-state talent to try to, like, almost put a wall around your state and only recruit your in-state kids. You don't have it. And those other schools are going to be able to consistently steal your kids. So I don't think that's a spot where we're like, oh, the Ole Miss job is open, like if we're saying Notre Dame's open or Ohio State's open. Like, it's not the same. So, yeah, I think Ole Miss is definitely in for some, I don't know, I would say, dark times is the right word, but I don't know. If you keep calling escort service and then you lose your job and then the school's just going to suck. So, I guess, did I give a surprise team? I actually like Mississippi State also, only because they are in the basement on paper, but Dan Mullen always seems to exceed expectations. I think that's a team that could sneak their way into maybe like the 4th spot instead of the 7th.
Ooh.
Freshman
QB last year had a good year.
Right, yeah. So, yay, Mississippi State, Cowbells or whatever. It's actually really annoying when their games are on. But, so that should wrap up the SEC preview. Do we have Corey from Denver for this, or is he going to be
he's going to be an ACC caller.
Okay, so
what about national
implications?
National title, teams that can win a national title out of the conference.
I think
a lot more than the other conferences we talked about.
Here's the thing: if you make it out of the SEC,
you're in.
Then I think you have a good shot to win 2 games. To be honest, I think Alabama can. I think that this is tough.
3.
Alabama,
Auburn, and
I was going to say Auburn, and then so you don't think Georgia can?
No one from the East?
No, not until Jacob Eason shows that he can win multiple big level games.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's fairly highly touted. I think he's a good, really good talent, and he's got some playmakers around him. But I don't stamp somebody a title contender until they've proven it. Which it's kind of like Washington last year; they never had proven it. So I was like, okay, Washington, whatever.
I think Florida is. I think that it's definitely like borderline, but I think if they could get in and look, let's say
Like
that
Zaire
let's say-
contending for a title.
well, right. Let's say Zaire let's say he comes in and like balls out, then all they need is to be competent on offense, like we've talked about with LSU. But I think that Florida has a lot better chance of that than LSU this year. So,
but we were consensus that the SEC winner, barring some weird catastrophe, is going to be in the playoffs.
well, right, and like so, what we mean by this is if you guys, like I said, didn't watch the Big 12 and Pac-12 preview that was all lumped into one episode, we said that even though we think, like obviously we think a Big 12 team could make it into the playoff, we didn't actually think that any of those teams were like bona fide national title contenders. But with these SEC teams, we just think the conference in general is a little bit tougher. There's a little bit more talent on each of these teams. So I think that do you think, since you have Georgia winning,
think about it this way: if Bama magically wasn't in this conference, how many teams would you consider? Because that opens up the door a lot more for a team like Florida or Georgia to get into the playoff.
That's a good point. Yeah.
If those teams win the SEC, then yeah, I think,
Yeah.
there's probably like 4 teams because I can't say Florida is and then not say Georgia since I have them winning.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
Has there been a worse quarterback to win a national title than Danny Etling? Mock at LSU.
I was gonna say they've had
was actually not horrible though. That's the thing. He was actually decent.
I need stats.
Yeah, and
I need stats
I
to
mean,
prove.
also Matt Mock, Matt Flint. I feel like we're the same guy.
It wasn't a Ben Mock, Matt Mock. Who
It
knows?
doesn't
We're not
matter.
even sure.
It doesn't matter.
But I need stats to verify he wasn't terrible because I'm trying to think. Like you can put an elite defense and Geis in the backfield together, and like be like the game manager.
I don't
it's
think
not,
LSU.
It's not the NFL where it's like
Yeah,
go in there.
LSU doesn't.
I
have a
always
shot,
say that
man.
you don't need an elite quarterback to win.
I don't think LSU has a shot this year. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I think anybody that says they do is full of shit.
So I think you're looking at 3, maximum
Maybe.
4.
Okay, yeah. So we're like
Title
kind of split
contenders.
on Georgia.
But it really doesn't matter because we all think Alabama's going to win it.
I think Alabama's the best team in the country.
LSU's the kind of team that going in you're not really expecting it, but then also if they have a great year, that's not surprising because of the talent they
I agree.
have.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure.
Okay, so we think 3 or 4 teams legitimately from the SEC. That's pretty standard for them, I would say. As much as Addison and I are big Ohio State fans, so we tend to not like the SEC. Steele's a Notre Dame fan, and obviously he has bad memories of the 2012 national title game.
It wasn't a game.
It was just didn't
like
exist.
you came in like by definition called it.
Yeah, okay.
It was just they won.
It was just a parade.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Alabama.
It was just a vacation for you.
Yeah.
It was a vacation
Yeah.
for you and Billy Bob to go to Florida, have
Right.
a good time.
I was in the area.
Yes,
it was
you just
fun.
happened to maybe be in the area. So,
Yeah.
that I guess will do it for the SEC preview. You guys, like I said, if you haven't seen the Big 12/Pac-12 preview, then go ahead and check that out. Be on the lookout for the ACC preview, which should be the next episode after this. So, yeah, till next time.
Bye.